Thanos Titan Consumed is a work of fiction steeped in the genre of science fiction. You know, different planets, space battles, Nova Corps being ever so useful, as always. It was written by young adult author Barry Lyga, who's actually known for writing a Dexter-like young adult serial killer series called I Hunt Killers. So, the fact that he's writing the story of one of Marvel's most well-known sociopaths makes a hell of a lot more sense now. As you would have guessed, this is a story about Thanos. But not just any version of Thanos, mind you. This is a story of Marvel Cinematic Universe Thanos, which I assure you did not make reading this any easier for me. It takes place throughout the MCU as we currently know it, chronicling his origin, his initial attempt to save Titan, how he became a warlord, and how he first found out about the Infinity Stones. All through Thanos' point of view. So, to be fair, I feel that I have to talk about more characters in this story outside of the ones that I actually liked. Because if I only talked about the ones that I actually liked, this is gonna be a short-ass portion of this video, I'm sure. So outside of Thanos, the major players to me are Lars, his father, Sentai, his childhood best friend, and Cha, who tries to be his conscience during his early genocidal escapades. It doesn't really work out. And ironically enough, the only two characters out of the three that I listed that I liked are Sentai and Cha, which means, like all good things in Thanos' life, they're going to end up dead. Lars is like Jor-El, if Jor-El was a self-absorbed, arrogant piece of shit. Because Lars is a self-absorbed, arrogant piece of shit. Given the knowledge that we have of MCU Thanos, and the fact that this book is technically canon in the MCU, you can see that there's an attempt to make us believe that a lot of the reasons why Thanos in the MCU is the way that he is because of his father. And while the book does go into detail that not everything is a Sins of the Father storyline regarding how he got to how Thanos is currently in the MCU, at least until Gamora and Nebula are introduced, the actions of Lars during the final days of Titan help paint a picture of where some, if not most, of his sociopathic tendencies came from. Sentai was a saving grace, real talk. Like, I knew it was gonna be short-lived because Thanos is still Thanos at the end of the day, and I mean everyone on Titan eventually dies, but god damn it did I appreciate the fuck out of his presence in the first act of this story. Especially since despite his efforts earlier on, because he genuinely cared for the fucker, all it took was for him to ask one question to realize that Thanos was beyond saving and let him go. Oh, and trust me, this is not me saying that Thanos deserves sympathy in the slightest. If anyone deserves any sympathy, even if it's just a little bit, it's Cha. Cha tried to be Sentai for adult Thanos, but failed in a way that kind of reminds me of how some people accidentally get caught up in far right-wing politics. You either have your initial moral codes and ethics or are still impressionable. You're then introduced to an individual that shows to have a radical way of thinking that doesn't necessarily line up with yours and could possibly be dangerous. But because you believe everyone deserves to be heard despite what you think of their opinions, you don't oppose to letting them gain a platform and hear them out. Next thing you know, you're guilty by association by getting caught up in promoting their foolishness, and you don't find out that you're dancing with the devil until it's too fucking late. That's Cha. And there are a lot of Chas in this world. Look, I knew exactly what I was getting into with this story the minute that I decided to read it for this month's book report. I knew that I was gonna hate Thanos. Because I fucking hate Thanos. And I knew that there was going to be a possibility that the author was going to try and make me see him as a sympathetic figure, which I refused to do. But just because the book focused on a character that I despised didn't mean that I immediately thought it was trash. Thanks to this story, I now have a better understanding of the changes that have been made to Thanos in order for him to fit in the MCU according to his initial plan to eradicate half the universe. Personal bias of the character aside, everything was coherent and the story for the most part was pretty self-contained. And that says a lot considering that this took place over the course of multiple years in the timeline of the current MCU, despite Thanos being the main character. That was initially my main reason for reading this book. And because it was through Thanos' point of view, not first person, but still through his point of view, seeing how he thought and operated was pretty consistent throughout the story, and definitely matched what we saw in his appearances in the MCU so far. So when I initially got the book in the mail, I kind of put off reading it, not because it was a Thanos-based story, mind you, but because of how thick it was. Then I opened the book, saw the margins and the size of the font, and immediately tried to figure out why human beings love wasting paper. There wasn't a paperback edition of the book when I ordered it on Amazon. I could only get the hardcover if I wanted a physical copy. And for a book that was this thick, I was surprised that the story was only this thick. And I know that was out of Barry Lyga's jurisdiction and had everything to do with Little and Brown. The one that was in Barry Lyga's jurisdiction, however, was the 45 chapters the book consisted of, and the 3 to 5 chapters that were only between 1 to 4 paragraphs long. It was weird. It was very weird. Like, I don't know if there are other contemporary authors who do the same thing, but I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't really care for it. Thanos Titan Consumed was my attempt at stepping out of my comfort zone in regards to reading an interpretation of a character that I absolutely hate. Not to get a better understanding of said character or hope that the author could give me something to like about the motherfucker, but to understand how the character, both regarding personality and motivation, has been reworked to fit the narrative of the MCU, considering that this is the closest thing we're going to get to official canon unless Marvel Studios decides to make a full-fledged origin movie, which I doubt and do not want. Especially now that I've read this book, it got the job done well enough. So if you either like Thanos as a character, want to know how they changed stuff around for him to fit in the MCU without the crush on death and everything, or both, you'll probably find this MCU tie-in useful, if not enjoyable. For me, I only found it useful because I still hate Thanos. And I'll explain why next week. So with that, readers, your homework assignment for the day. Write in the comment section below what you thought of the novel Thanos Titan Consumed if you've read it. Book report is possible thanks to the generous support of fellow readers over on Patreon. So if you want to see more and help financially support the channel, you can join it by clicking the card at the end of the video or in the link in the description down below, where you can also find a link to my merchandise store. Or if you prefer to give a one-time donation, you can find links to my PayPal and my Ko-fi account in the description box as well. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. But until then, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.